Okay, this is Richmond, and then today we are on the next tutorial here, and then we are talking about binary compounds. And then this is a very fantastic topic that you're going to like it. And then when you just hear the name binary, will give you a clue that bi means two, and binary compounds are simply talking about compound formed by two elements. So when two elements come together to form a compound, we call it a binary compound. Simple like that. Okay, so example, let's take example of binary compound. I can say magnesium chloride, like example. Okay, magnesium chloride is example of calcium chloride. It's example of binary compound. Let's take sodium chloride. Okay, I've taken chloride. So all these compounds are formed from two elements, so they're called binary compounds. So the reason for this tutorial is for us to know the rules governing this naming of binary compound. And the first rule is very important here. It's very important. So let's talk about the first rule here. And it's very important that you should keep it very well. It says that the suffix id replace the last two or three letters in the more electronegative element. Somebody asks, what is electronegative element? When talk about electronegative element, we're talking about the element in a bonding accept electron from the other atom. So example of highly electronegative elements are chlorine. So chlorine is a highly electronegative element. So the suffix id, so it means that the suffix ide, this will replace the last three letters of the chlorine, which is ine. So now chlorine now becomes chloride. Okay, so we change the last three letters of the highly electronegative element and we replace it by ide, and the name becomes this. So chlorine now becomes chloride. So let's take another one, and then we have iodine. Iodine is a highly electronegative element. So this one, ine, is being replaced by ide. Iodine becomes iodide. Okay, so this is how the rule 1 states. It says that the suffix ide replaces the last two or three letters in a more electronegative element, and I've explained what electronegative element is. Okay, so let's move on to the second rule. What is the second rule saying? The second rule is saying that the oxidation number of the more electropositive atom is placed in parentheses in capital Roman numerals, okay, after the name of the element. Let's say something here. Example, electropositive is talking about the atom in a bonding gives away one or more electrons to the other element that's bonding with. Okay, example is copper. So copper is here, so let me write copper. So when you are writing copper in a compound state, if a copper is being bonding to another element, all that you do is that we write the copper and write its oxidation number in a bracket, so copper 2, and we put it in a bracket like this. Okay, iron 3, write iron 3, we put in a bracket like this. Just write it very well here. Iron 4 3, like this one. Sorry. So copper 2, you write a copper and you put the charge or the oxidation number of the copper in a parenthesis. Iron 3, you write iron 3, put in the parenthesis. If it is iron 1, ion 2, you write it and you put in parentheses. But there's something that you need to know here. The reason why we put the oxidation number of this electropositive element in parentheses, but we have some of the element, they have fixed oxidation number. If the elements have fixed oxidation number, we don't have to put the oxidation number in a parenthesis. We only put the oxidation number in a parenthesis if only those elements have variable oxidation numbers. So copper, we can have different oxidation number of copper, and then because of that, if copper 2, we need to put it in a parenthesis. If it's iron, we can have ion 2, ion 3. So when it's ion 2, you put in a parenthesis. When ion 3, you put in parenthesis. That's the only reason. But if the thing that you are dealing with, the element that you are dealing with is having a fixed oxidation number, you don't put it in parentheses. Example, you can say sodium 1. It's wrong. You can say sodium 1 because sodium is having a fixed oxidation number. Okay, you can't say potassium 1 because potassium is having a fixed oxidation number. You can't say magnesium 2 because magnesium is having a fixed oxidation number. So copper is not having fixed oxidation number, so we are dealing with copper 2. We need to know the oxidation number of that copper. We put in a bracket. When dealing with iron, we need to know the type of the oxidation number that is carried and you put in a bracket. And note that if the element is having fixed oxidation number, we don't put the oxidation number in parentheses. Let's move on to the third rule. And the third rule is very, very important here. So we'll talk about first rule, second rule, the third rule. The name is then the combination of the names of the two elements in point 1 and point 2. So point 1, I talk about the highly electronegative element. That is, it can be chlorine, bromine, and then iodine. So all you do is that you change the last 3 letters of the highly electronegative element. We replace it with IDE, and then the name changes. So chlorine now become chloride, and iodine now become iodide. So now to find the name, we just put the 2 points together. That is point 2 and point 1. We put them together in order to get our name. So that's very simple. The name is then the combination of the names of the two. So we have the highly electronegative element and highly electropositive element. So example, let's take example here and have copper 2 chloride. So you can see that the law is working here. This is highly electronegative element. So we've replaced the last letter here, INE, making chlorine. We've replaced it with IDE, and the name have become chloride. And then this is highly electropositive element, and because of that, we calculated for its oxidation state, and we put in a parenthesis. Okay, so let's take another one, another example, and this example is copper 2 oxide. Copper 2 oxide is written this way, and then can write in this way, copper 2 oxide. Okay, so here oxygen, we change the last oxygen is written this way. Okay, so we change the whole of this one. Remove the whole of this one, and we replace it with IDE. Alright, so now oxygen becomes oxide, and then the copper being the highly electropositive element, we brought the distance its oxidation number in a parenthesis and we close it. And then the last one is ion 3 chloride. So write your ion, and then you put the oxidation number here 3, and then chloride. So basically, friends, this is how, and I can write a formula here, ion 3 chloride here. So basically, this is how we name binary compounds, and I know this tutorial has been of good help to you. And if you like this tutorial, please, all that I'll ask you to do is to subscribe to my channel, to share this video and like it for more tutorials. Thank you.